Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Okay, emergency podcast time. These things happen once in a while, and it's exciting when they happen, especially for good reason, and that's certainly the case today. Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais, and Matt's going to be on here for a little while with me. Then he's going to jump off because it's a big Friday. We're recording this on a Friday. It's noon right now.
Dude,
and the
crazy.
the other team in town made a big move as well.
Yeah, for sure. So today is a fun day.
Yeah.
There's so many things in Western New York sports happening today, which is great, right? That means there's a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to do. But the first big move happened. I'm sitting at breakfast with my buddies. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm minding my business. I'm eating a little avocado toast on this first Friday of Lent, trying to not eat meat. And then all of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up. So here we are.
Yeah, and of course, that move was Terrel Bernard signing a contract extension. And then, because you're a sports director here on the ABC affiliate, the Dylan Cousins apparent trade to Ottawa also takes shape within the next couple hours after that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been kind of one thing after another. I was actually just having the meeting of like, okay, if this is what happens today, if there's not any other big moves, how do we kind of put together our shows and our newscasts? And, you know, normally the tie goes to the Bills. The Bills are the team that everybody is always talking about. But when it's a guy staying compared to a major piece going out and a new guy coming in, I think that takes precedent, at least for like the newscast side of things. But this is a Bills podcast, so we'll talk more about Terrel Bernard.
I love that, though. I do love how the inside, that's a really good look at the inside part of it. And I struggle with that on the radio show today. Like, which way to prioritize them. But I do think trades, big names leaving, coming in, whatever, always kind of do take more of a precedent, but you're right about the Bills. And of course, that news hit today. Terrel Bernard, here's the deal. Terrel Bernard, the Bills have announced it. It's official. He has signed a 4-year contract extension with the club. That locks him up for 5 more years because he still had 1 more year remaining. It's very much like Khalil Shakir and what happened last week. Terrel Bernard and Khalil Shakir now both locked up through the 2029 season. Now, reports are of this deal that it could hit up to $50 million. But what we all know, Matt, the guaranteed money is what counts the most. Sounds like it's only half that, a little over 25 mil and change. And I got to be honest with you. I think that's a really good bargain for a player like Terrel Bernard if it's only 25 million guaranteed, because by the time the bigger money might kick in a little bit later and the incentives, he hits the incentives, that's great. You can always do more with the contract after that anyway.
I saw the term of the deal before I saw the money and thought the number was going to be significantly higher. I was kind of bracing for, okay, he signs a 4-year extension worth this much money, the up to $50 million. When I saw the $50 million, I was like, whoa, like that means 12 and a half a year. Like that seems like a very fair deal. He's still 25 years old. He is a ridiculously young player still entering the prime of his career. I think that this is a team-friendly deal for the Bills, assuming it's even going to be more friendly once the numbers actually come out that aren't the numbers that are leaked from the agent. So I think that this is a home run deal for the Bills and for the player. It always felt like Bernard was going to stay here. It was just, how much is he going to get paid? Well, now he got paid, and I think it's a very fair deal for both sides, leaning as a win for the team.
So I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this for you, but I'll ask you anyway. Just everything being equal, don't just forget salary. Who would you rather have as your middle linebacker, Terrel Bernard or Tremaine Edmunds?
Terrel Bernard.
Of course. Do you remember what Tremaine Edmunds signed for?
Yes, because I looked it up this morning and I deleted what I was going to say because it felt a little unfair. But the post was good because I don't want to keep thinking about the past. But I was going to say, Terrel Bernard makes the splash plays the Bills always wanted Tremaine Edmunds to make, and he costs not nearly as much. But that's kind of how I felt after looking into the deal a little bit more.
4 years, $72 million is what Tremaine Edmunds got on the open market.
Yeah.
4 for 72, 50 guaranteed. Terrel Bernard's deal can be 50 total, 25 guaranteed. They got him for half the price. And I think that everybody would say, if you're a Bills fan watching, you'd rather have Terrel Bernard than Tremaine Edmunds. Now, the question is Terrel Bernard the kind of guy that you're comfortable with giving this money going forward? I have heard from several Bills fans since that are concerned about him being undersized. He didn't have that ascension last year to the next level after what we saw in 2023. I think all of those are valid points, but my gosh, this is still a very good player who plays in every situation. He's a 3-down linebacker. He is undersized, but guess what? Part of that reason is because you can keep him on the field. It's a chicken and egg sometimes with these positions. He can play, he can cover, he gets interceptions, he can do a lot. And let's not forget, he is one of 2 captains on the Buffalo Bills, along with Josh Allen. He means a ton to the organization.
Yeah, he's undersized, but I also think that the versatility is there that you wouldn't get with a player like Tremaine Edmonds. Now, there are pros and cons to this, right? The Tremaine Edmonds player, or the type player, heavier in the run game, a little bit more stout in that area, but can be beat in pass coverage. Terrel Bernard is not an elite pass coverage linebacker, but he's pretty good. And the thing that I love about Terrel Bernard, and the thing that everybody should love about Terrel Bernard, is that he does make the splash plays. Now, when you think back to the playoffs, he and everybody else on the defense left a lot to be desired against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Like, I remember the play at the end of the game to Pirine, the 3rd down conversion, where it looked like Bernard could have brought him down. He doesn't. But then the week before, he punches the ball out of Mark Andrews' hands. The Bills he recovers. The Bills go down the field, extend their lead, and ultimately that is why they win the game. A play like that. So he makes splash plays. He sealed the win at the end of the game against the Chiefs in the regular season. He sealed the win. Well, not the win, but he made a huge play at the end of the Texans game, his first game back, the interception of Stroud. Like, he makes big plays, and that's what they want him and Matt Milano to do as their linebackers.
So if we take Khalil Shakir's contract that he signed as a bit of a template, I would not be surprised if Terrel Bernard's cap hit actually was reduced. And the reason why I say it is, I didn't think that Shakir, they'd be able to do that, Matt. But what you have to think about is they gave Shakir a void year as well, which allowed them to spread the contract out. Shakir, actually, they went from about $3.2 million on the cap to down to 2.5. They save about 750 grand. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case here. Terrel Bernard's actually scheduled to count 3.5 or so, a little bit less than that, $3.5 million in the cap this year. I wouldn't be surprised if that's down to 3 this year and they save another 500 grand. That's a little over $1 million saved with 2 players.
They are hinting with the things that they've done so far that they are trying to make moves to clear up space, not to just operate, but to be able to do things. That's the sense that I'm getting from the moves that they're making. And I don't disagree with you. I remember when they signed the Shakir deal, or when they agreed to the Shakir deal, we had the conversation of how the heck could they lower that cap number? He's a 5th round pick. There's no way that number is going to get lowered. And then they did. And when you consider that Bernard, 3rd round pick, was going to make more than Shakir was going to, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that we see a really low cap number this year. My guess is that when the contract's up, we see a little bit of money thrown into a void year, almost the exact same thing as they did with Shakir. And then the numbers are going to be very manageable. $25 million guaranteed. That's a lot, but it's not absurd.
All right, so there's still some work to get done here. And by the way, before you go, because Matt's going to jump off here, he's going to do a little more work on the Sabre side of things as he gets ready to do some sports today on the TV side. They did make another move, and that is Sam Martin was released. Not a super big surprise. They're going to save a little over $1 million, I think, on Sam Martin. I have to go back and look at that exact number.
Almost $2 million. They're going to have to replace him.
Yes.
So it ends up being closer to $1 million, but it at its face value, it's $2 million.
Jake Camarda is actually on the roster right now as the only punter for the Buffalo Bills. I would expect them to invest in another punter at some point this offseason.
They got a bunch of draft picks. They're going to draft somebody, and they're going to have a competition between whoever they draft and Camarada. Is that saying it right? Camarda. Yep. So between those two, Camarda has started 38 games for the Bucs. He got cut halfway through the year. Bills signed him to a future reserves contract. Nobody was talking about it when it happened because it was right before the Bills were getting ready to start the playoffs. So there were obviously bigger fish to fry at that point. No pun intended. And now we can get to bigger fish to fry. Look at my hat, by the way. Kenilworth Fire Company fish fry hat. Okay. I went and covered this the other day for work because I was like, hey, it's a quiet day for sports. Let me go. Every year I go and do something where I talk to people at a fish fry and ask them to give me their spiciest sports takes. So I went and I did it, and then they gave me this hat, which is awesome. It's a sick hat.
That's really cool. Come for the Bills updates and news. Stay for the cool hat that Matt is wearing and how he got about it, the cap that he got. All right, so there is some work left to be done here, and I'm just going to say I expect something to get done here with either Greg Rousseau or Von Miller, and maybe both of them, or Christian Benford. To me, I've said this from the beginning, Matt, you know this. I think Greg Rousseau is most likely and easiest because he got a $13 million cap hit, and you can lower that down, and you could shed probably $10 million because it's got to be a bigger number. You correctly point out, but you still have to pay him a lot of money, which you have to be comfortable with, which I totally get. I would not be surprised if over the next, couple of days, today, tomorrow, sometime over the weekend, I would not be surprised if we hear A, Greg Rousseau gets an extension, and B, something happened with Von Miller's contract, whatever that is.
What would be the number, knowing so many variables here, what would be the number you would be comfortable paying Greg Rousseau? Let's say that they give him a 4-year extension, because that seems to be the theme that they are going with right now, which coincidentally fits into the Josh Allen window. Let's say that's around the term of the deal. What would be the number you would be comfortable giving him? Do yearly, don't do
80.
like overall. So 80 over 4. So 20 a year. I would be comfortable with that, but I think it's going to be higher.
I agree. As long as it's to me, if that's like what, if you get like all the escalators and what it could amount to, if it's up to 90 something, like you have to look at the details. But I think 20 is about right about what I think where it would come in, and I'd be like, okay, this is the price to the price to pay a player like this.
And keep in mind, and this is something you have said for several weeks now, so credit to you, if they make this move, that will very likely clear up. If they make the Greg Rousseau contract extension, if that happens over the course of the next couple of days or whatever it is here, I think that they'll basically be cap compliant based off of the other moves that they have made. And then all of the additional moves they make after that will be the spending money that they have. And the deals that we talk about are the Josh Allen restructure, the Deion Dawkins restructure, the Ed Oliver restructure, potentially doing something with Vaughn, AJ Epinesa. So if they make the Greg Rousseau extension, yeah, you're committing to that player for a long time to a lot of money, but you're also probably freeing up $10, $11 million this year. And then all of a sudden you're back in the black.
All right, buddy, I'm going to let you go and do your thing for the Dylan Cousins apparent trade and anything else going on with the Sabres. And I'm just going to wrap up with the listeners here and go through the linebackers and what they look like now going ahead in 2025.
Okay, so here's the real quick. Do you want the finalized deal?
You got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Is it done?
According to Elliot Friedman, yeah.
This is hockey now. We're shifting back and forth, folks. Go ahead.
All right, this is going to be how it ends. Josh Norris and Bernard Docker. So Josh Norris, 25-year-old center, scoring, good player. Bernard Docker, former first round.
It's Jacob Bernard Docker.
Jacob Bernard Docker. Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
I'm just, yes. Former first round pick, 24, has played like 125 NHL games for Dylan Cousins, Dennis Gilbert.
Ooh.
And a second round pick in 2026.
Wow. Interesting. I did not expect Gilbert to be a part of this.
I didn't either. But I mean, defenseman coming in, defenseman coming out, I guess kind of makes sense. I like this. I like this move for the Sabres.
And a second. The Sabres are giving up a second here.
Yeah, who cares? They have so many. They have so many.
Yeah, it's not like hockey. Real quick, Dylan Cousins and Dennis Gilbert now, they get to go play in the playoffs maybe too. We'll see. We'll see how it works out, right?
Maybe.
I mean, they're right there. They're in a spot, but obviously Dennis Gilbert, Buffalo guy. He goes. Was he on a 1-year deal? He was going to be he's a UFA anyway.
He's a free agent anyway.
Buffalo. Who knows?
Exactly.
He can re-sign with the Sabres. All right, you go do what you're going to do. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the linebackers. Thanks a lot. Matt Beauvais right there. It's always Game Day in Buffalo. Sal Capaccio with you. And yeah, we're monitoring and thinking about and talking about a lot of things going on with the Bills here, the Sabres here. But in the meantime, for you to come to this podcast, and it's always Game Day in Buffalo, subscribe at the YouTube channel at Sal Sports, of course, and listen wherever you pod. And we'll keep you updated on anything else we have throughout the weekend and into next week. And of course, Terrel Bernard signing a contract extension. That means Terrel Bernard and Matt Milano apparently back as the starting strong side and starting weak side linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. That's right, folks. I said Matt Milano. I expect Matt Milano to be back in 2025. All right. I expect Matt Milano to be the starting weak side linebacker for the Buffalo Bills in 2025. I know a lot of you are wondering what's going to happen with Matt. Could he possibly, be a June 1st release? Post-June 1 release. He's not going to be a pre-June 1 release. I can tell you that, because the money would just be astronomical to take on with no savings whatsoever. Post-June 1 release was always possible with a $9 million savings, taking on $6 million in dead cap this year and next year. I'm here to tell you, the way it sounds to me, I think Matt Milano is staying in Buffalo for at least another year. 2025, he will be the starting weak side linebacker. Then we'll see what happens beyond that with a guy like Dorian Williams, who they really like filling in for Matt. But I don't think they're super comfortable with him being a 17-game starter, yet he can play special teams. He can fill in. And, with Dorian Williams, you can also train him at Mike, train him at Will. He can fill in for both sides. But you do have Joe Andreessen now. Joe Andreessen's interesting because he is the backup to Terrel Bernard. Joe Andreessen still has 2 years remaining on his deal. Rookie deal, undrafted free agent deal, and then you still have control over him from the Bills side because he'll be a restricted free agent after a couple years. So really, this linebacker group, the top 4 are pretty much set going into 2025. There's nothing left to do here. And even beyond that, the top 6 are pretty much set. However, I think Eddie Ulofoshio, you start there. I expect him to be this, special teams guy, fills a certain role. You can see his development. Next year, he was a rookie last year, really didn't play much. He did start at the end of the year, week 18 against the Patriots in that game that didn't matter for the Bills, and he played every snap. I think, you bring him along, you keep letting him play special teams. Let's see if he's active, gets a jersey on game day. But then there's Bale Inspector. I brought up Joe Andreessen, and I should have said Andreessen and Spector, because I expect Joe Andreessen to win the backup middle linebacker job this offseason. Bale Inspector has been on injured reserve 3 times over the last couple of years. Bale Inspector's been injured a little bit too much for my taste, and I think for the Bills' taste. But he'll have an opportunity to keep his job in his final year of his rookie deal as well. Bale Inspector going into. So, we'll see where this goes. But I think I like the linebacking group as far as the stability of it. You can make an argument that, hey, Matt Milano coming off a couple of injuries. He's 31 years old this year. Terrel Bernard undersized. You're a little bit worried about the depth there. Totally get it. Dorian Williams is there. I think Joe Andreessen, to me, wins that job. You still have Bale Inspector as of right now. Eddie Ulofoshio. I think the Bills have done a nice job of keeping the stability of the linebacker position. And this move today really kind of, enhances that for the next several years. Dorian Williams, still 2 years left in his rookie deal. Bale Inspector, still 1 year left in his rookie deal. Joe Andreessen, still 2 years left in his rookie deal. Eddie Ulofoshio, 3 years left. So really beyond, really everybody's kind of locked up here, to be honest with you, for quite a while, which is good. They do have one other name here, Tyreek Maddox-Williams. They signed him at the end of last year to the practice squad to replace Lewis Seen, who had been poached by the Philadelphia Eagles. He had been on the Bills practice squad. I have at WGR550.com a State of the Bills series going on. And the State of the Bills linebackers, I just published actually earlier this week. And I went into the Terrel Bernard situation, and now we have it come to fruition. It was always something I expected the Bills would do at some point, and now it's happened. And then on top of that, the latest one I have is the state of the cornerback position. So please go read that if you get a chance, WGR550.com. The big one there is, much like linebacker, by the way, corner is very stable for the Bills. 6 guys under contract, only 1 pending free agent. The difference is the 1 pending free agent is a starter. It is Rasul Douglas. And at this point, I don't know if I expect Rasul Douglas back. I think the Bills might go shopping in free agency to get another corner. They might have to draft one early to get another corner. But can you bank on another corner starting opposite Christian Benford if it's a draft pick? Maybe a free agent, that would be a guy like that. But how much does that cost? And then you have Christian Benford's contract as well. And the Bills are going to have to do something about that. He's going to be going into the last year of his deal. I think a lot of people expect a lucrative deal for him for his next contract. Does that happen sooner rather than later? Or do they let him play it out? And then they say, hey, we can always franchise tag him and see where that goes. Jamarcus Ingram's a guy I've always loved. You know that. If you listen to the podcast here, you know it's a guy that I've talked about a lot. I've been always in Jamarcus Ingram's corner as far as this guy's going to be good. And I do like the progression he's been on. The question is, do the Bills feel that Jamarcus Ingram could be a long-term starter for this team, at least, a full season starter? And how would that sit next to Christian Benford? Would that be the right idea? We know that Kaiir Elam just hasn't worked out. What can the Bills do with Kaiir Elam? Can they trade him this offseason? If they do, another team would take on $2.5 million of his salary, which maybe another team says, hey, we like this kid coming out. He fits our system. We're going to run more man-to-man. We're going to go with Kaiir Elam, and we'll make the deal. If not, the Bills have to make a decision if they keep him on the roster at, I think it's $4.3 million, or cut him and still count $4.3 million. Kaiir Elam is going to cost the Bills $4.3 million on their roster, whether he's on the team or off the team, unless they trade him. Then they do get a little bit of cap relief where they can trade him, and I think they get a couple $1 million of relief by doing that. So we'll see where they go with all of this, but the point is, go check it out, WGR550.com, my State of the Bills position by position series. I've done everything on the offense. I've done everything on the defense except for safety. That's coming this weekend and into next week. And then we'll run through special teams as well. 2 more rookies they do have at corner, Daquan Hardy to Corey Couch. I touch on them as well, but Rasul Douglas is a pending free agent. All right, the Bills have to get under the salary cap by Wednesday at 4 p.m. What do we expect between now and then? Monday at 12 noon, they can start talking to the agents of pending free agents. Their own free agents they can talk to whenever they want. They can sign extensions, but any other free agent, Monday is the day that they can start to do that. As I said with Matt a little while ago, I expect a Greg Rousseau extension to come down at some point. I think that's the next likely move for the Buffalo Bills to clear a lot of cap space. The question is how much you're willing to spend, how much will they spend on that type of extension. On top of that, something's got to get done with Von Miller's contract between now and then. You can't let him play on the $20 million cap hit or whatever the cap hit is right now that he's scheduled to make next year. I think it's over 20 as it is, but you can't expect, let me just see real quick, Von Miller, what the cap hit is. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Here we go. Von Miller's, I think it's 23. Let me see if I'm right on that. 23 this year, right? 23.8, close to 24. They got to do something with Von's contract, whether that's an outright release or it's a restructure / pay cut. I think that is something also that we'll be monitoring here over this weekend and into next week. And if something else happens, Matt and I will have it for you. One more time, Sal Sports on YouTube. Check it out. All the podcasts are right there. We got a lot of stuff going on there. And of course, wherever you pod, it's always Game Day in Buffalo. Thanks for being a part of this one, the emergency pod after the Terrel Bernard extension.